justify it. That's awesome. Would you like another cup? Would you like another cup? The sea gives me ennui. Hear the sound of my voice, and you will be healed. Never mind those things that happen at night. The sun shines on the wicked and the it begins soon. So sorry to wake you. So sorry to wake you. Sweet dreams.
Greetings in the name of the Most High. Here we are. Got the having to have a fire going out here in the front because why? Because there's a little chill in the air. Since now we're heading down to days that are shorter, and you can definitely feel, at least up here around 7,000 feet, you can feel the the incoming. There's just a little chill, enough to justify a fire, which is interesting since we're just coming out of fire season, but it's been raining, so I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, is that better? I can't lean on that table, so I'm gonna have to just sit here like this. Okay, so I spent the day catching up on all the latest on 2024 ET, the UFO situation, the government reveal of said UFO situation, World War III, financial collapse, the impending and most exciting thing, the Trump versus Biden fiasco, which should have all eyes on that. I mean, that's like the ultimate, probably the ultimate fight. I don't think you have better entertainment than that, do you? I mean, that's entertainment. That really is. What's entertainment to me is just leading up to that date. What you hear in the background there is I've got a little water feature in the little courtyard here. They have a little house with a courtyard. And over the years, I've been adding, rocks and bricks, just I just have a thing where I don't want to. There used to be stucco here, like on this wall, but I don't want to re-stucco, and that's really not a lot. That's not wise planning, because what happens is over a period of, say, about 10 years, it has to be redone. It's very expensive. Where rocks, if you go little by little, they'll outlive you, right? That'll outlive me. We don't have to mess with that again. There won't have to be paint on that, nothing. So it's the same kind of philosophy, let's say, that I have is somebody, well, like in Italy, like in old Spain, or where the people have farmhouses and then they eventually cover them all with rocks, with the local rock, because those will stay for generations. And no, will I survive a nuclear blast with these rocks? Well, I don't know, but they do change the way that you feel. I mean, they do provide a healthier environment because of the crystals within than say something like chemical, synthetic stucco, which is, it's all synthetic these days. So that's my justification. Of course, these rocks, the lower ones, come from Arizona, as you can tell. And then we also have local rocks that look more like just no real color or anything, but they're softer. They're not as and then of course I like to blend them together. You see there's a ridge line there, and then above that is a different kind of rock. I started with that on the fireplace, and then I liked it so much I just extended it to the wall here, and so there's no, as far as I can see from here, there's no stucco there. But you walk out there a little bit, you turn around, you see there's still, building is still like half and half. But am I supposed to do that? I don't think I am supposed to do that. I never asked permission. I asked forgiveness. So that's how that gets done. Anyway, I'm in the middle of where we are in New Mexico. I'm in the middle of what you might call the extraterrestrial ground zero. You can see a lot of things in the sky any given night. You see, especially if you're higher up in the elevation, you see a lot going on. There's a lot of people here who have experienced UFOs. Then, of course, there's all the myths and all the legends about ET among us. You've got all the Pueblos and all the Native Americans and all of their, they all have very similar stories of interacting with various groups. Here, it would be the Anasazi that kind of, like the Mayans, disappeared. But if you look at all their petroglyphs, their little drawings on the rocks, they're all, a lot of them depicting, people with like spacesuits on and UFOs. What do they call it if it's not a UFO? It's an UAP, or a, what is it called? Unidentified aerial phenomenon. UAP? What is it called?
Unidentified aerial vehicle.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Phenomenon, or?
They say phenomenon because they're not sure if it's a vehicle or not. Well, some of these orbs and things flying around they're not vehicles, okay? They're energies. And as to who's controlling them, that's a good question. But anyway, I've been through the whole state. In fact, a lot of the footage, a lot of the films that you see are people, what's happening is they're recutting old stuff. Now, there was one I saw called Patient something or other, Patient 17. And that was a film that was released a decade ago, or even 2 decades ago. And it was a film, and then they recut it, repurposed it, and it's now a 2024 release. And it featured one of the guests of Art Bell, which was Dr. Roger Lear, before he died. So you can figure out when he died and figure out how that film, that was not fiction, that was a documentary. And it was only 60 some odd minutes long. And it had to do with an implant that was not of this world, that was removed from the patient. And they showed the operation and everything. And so it was, very interesting how there's this focus now on all of that and the interaction. I'm going to get some people mad now. So maybe we should take a break and talk about our sponsor, Yahuwah. A word from our sponsor. There just is no other way but the source of all things. Okay, back to the show. Okay, so here we are in about to go through the mass release of UFOs, Civil War, World War III, financial collapse, realignment, totalitarianism versus freedom of the individual, and now to help with a new world order, income, as if on cue, income, the UAPs, the ETs, all the different races, they're just all very gentle. And here's the message. They're all very gentle, and they just want to be friends. Okay, they're not here to interfere with our government or interfere with your arc of life, or the things you go through, or they're not here to rescue us. They're here to now they're here to communicate and to relate and to in fact, one of these documentaries that I saw, because I was thinking about exploring some of these documentaries myself, and they had I saw a very good one. I don't remember the name of it, but they had a Zuni Indian guy on there who was an elder, and he's also very well versed in the Bible and very well versed in prophecy, and even knew the Zuni prophecies, but he also knew the Hopi prophecies and other Pueblos prophecies. And it's funny how similar they are. They all predict that this is the fourth. They call it in the books, Western books, they'll call this the fourth turning. In India, for the Hindu, for the people that follow the Vedas, this would be called the fourth kalpa. But at any rate, it's the end of whatever was, and this is something I think we all can verify. It's the end of whatever was. What is beginning now, we're not quite sure, right? We're not completely 100% sure, but we know that it's the end of this this very corrupt, evil situation, because everything is being exposed to light. They also talk about an upgrade in DNA from the advanced frequencies, and an upgrade in dimensional freedom, meaning 4 and 5D, 4 and 5th dimensional consciousness, which then leads to the ability to go through portals, walk through walls, and do all the things that ET does, or that most ETs do. Not all. Look how big his head is, That's right. Keep those are mosquitoes, more than likely. He's trying to eat them.
Good boy.
Yeah, they're circling around me, Benz. This is my doctor. Okay, this is the guy who, basically nurses me back to health. He smells my breath. He's got to get behind that ear. And he's as sweet as can be, but he can be pretty fierce. Like, I wouldn't want to fight him in a fight, okay? This is a very interesting breed of pit bull, and what is these? Pit bull and greyhound.
Yeah,
American pit and greyhound.
American greyhound. He's a patriot.
You got me all set, Ben? Okay, so I'm good to go. I passed the test. I don't know how long we have, I'm not really afraid of death, but I also realize that have limitations, and it is what it is, that in terms of age. And sure, there's a lot of people that would love to know and have insurance that they could live forever. And I think this is going to become a temptation. That is the temptation for life extension, because the ETs have up their sleeve life extension technology. And so that's also offered. But in order to be, now stay with me, especially you veteran listeners and sojourners, See if this makes sense to you. So they want you to give up this idea of individuality so that you can join the loving collective of ET and be and because we're all one. It's just one love, one thing. And we can all go into this glorious future together and bypass all this nasty World War III stuff. But just, but to do that, we have to lower our boundaries, lower our barriers, become more loving and open, form relationships with the ETs, let them come into our lives. They come in invisibly at first. You hear them psychically, and then they get stronger. And then eventually you start seeing them as you give them more and more permission over your life, as they initiate us into the collective of all souls, which some of them say that they are in counselship to guide all souls to this realization that we're all one with everything. Whether you take ayahuasca or ketamine or any of the hallucinogenic drugs, you find it always leads to the same point. Lower your ego, lower your barriers. We're all one, you see? And we join with the collective. And there's no more I and mine, but us together, facing the future, extending our lives. One of the reasons we haven't been allowed to have, I know, I'm just hold your fire here for a second. One of the reasons I'm not preaching this, I'm letting you understand what's going on. One of the reasons we don't have life extension now is because the ETs have felt that we are a danger if we expand into space or into the cosmos, into the infinite universe or universes. We would be a detriment. We must be guided and trained in the way of love, kindness, openness, giving, and we must give ourselves to this reality without equivocation and without hesitation. And we'll be taken to a much better place, and then the ETs will assist us in our evolution, which has been stifled by evil and by evil intent, by evil actors, and some of which are also ETs. But the main ones, though, want to take us into our own evolution to upgrade our DNA and to upgrade our status to fifth and even higher dimensions than fifth dimension, which would mean that we would have access to portals, time travel, and eternal living. The ETs will also show us their planet, and they look for people that can gather children. They like to gather children and take them to their planet and teach them little games and things and teach them extra knowledge and then return them here so they can be part of the hybrid program of hybridizing humans to a much higher level so that humans can have utility in the universe. Okay, so there's your download. They like to say download. There's your download. Anybody? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to part 2 now. So you have to go to part 2 of the video because it's just a lot easier. So part 2, this is how we are. Okay. All right, welcome to part 2. And we're doing it this way for now until we find a home. We still would love to go live and have a live chat, live prayer, a lot of things live. One note, this does generate a podcast, in other words, an audio. So if you have a podcasting site, these audios, I have the button on, so so it separates the audio from the video, so you can just listen. But you might have to. I think you can get it from here, but if not, you're going to have to get it from iTunes or whatever you're hooked up to for your podcast. So, but it does generate that, and it also generates a written transcript, which is pretty cool. So you have an audio and a written transcript and the video too. If you get tired of my mug, you can just do that. But sometimes it's refreshing to have coffee and video and get going. Anyway, so we left off with ET. So it's so hard with this, with the powers that, should not be, pushing the World War III, pushing the Ukraine, pushing the proxy war, which is soon to become the global war. Nothing you can do about it. Nobody can turn it off. It's just a fait accompli. And then at the same time, the ETs coming in, it doesn't surprise me. And that all this is being decided. But let's go through a couple more, structurally what happens here. Now, when I was on my own spiritual journey, I went through, when I was, like a teenager, Eastern religions, and I went through the New Age religions, some occultism, not a practitioner, but, reading, looking into, which I rejected pretty quickly. I preferred Buddhism, Hinduism, Hindu philosophy, stuff like that, the Vedas. I was also researching UFOs back then. And back then in the 70s and 80s, the whole idea was that, again, to lose your collective thinking on any given thing, lose your individuality in favor of joining the loving collective and become one as we are one. Down, 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 down. And so here we are, some almost, 40 years from, 50, let's see, what is this, 76, 86, 96, 2006, 2016, 50 years from Close Encounter of the Third Kind, the Spielberg film. And we have the same message. The key to the evolution of human is, and this is crucial, you must believe that we were seeded and genetically altered to be what we are, and now the same people, the same beings, want to help us evolve further, but we have to do something first. We have to become more loving, less judgmental. We need to join the collective. We need to become as one before they're going to allow anyone, the life extension technologies and the upgrade of into fifth and sixth dimensional, and beyond consciousness, which is the key to, and I like to joke around about this. Well, if you have that, what do you need a spaceship for? Answer: you don't. You don't need a tin can to fly around in. You don't need some little outfit with pentagrams and upside down triangles and, epaulets and, big eyes and walking around and as if you're superior. I mean, these beings, and I hate to say these people on these films are deluded, but they're completely deluded. And they think that becoming friends with these entities is the way to go. And it's the key to humanity's future, a future of peace and love and goodwill toward men, and stopping with all this hate and war and blood, which, by the way, is being fomented by the leaders. I'm not doing it. You're not doing it. They're doing it, and they're forcing us to do it. They're doing it in our name. So in the aftermath of World War III, I think the cleanup operation will be an ET operation. That's my prediction here. Be like, okay, if you learn your lesson, come with us, and we'll take you to safety. And, all you have to do is comply. We just demand your allegiance, obedience, and yes, worship. In other words, there's nothing different than it was in 1976. Nothing different than in 1985, the harmonic convergence of 1987. Nothing different than it was in the 90s. Nothing different at all. In the 90s, we went through the indigo children, the blue children. Those who have the upgraded DNA are being, hybrids, being born and infiltrated through our humanity to help us dial up in our evolution so we don't destroy ourselves. so we don't destroy ourselves. So we have help here. If we would just open our hearts and open our minds and open our pocketbooks, we too could be helped. We could avoid all this war. It's all our fault. When these loving ETs have just been standing by, not judgmental, not interfering, waiting for us to come home, to take us into the future that is eternal. And we have to change. Kids need to be taught in school. Things have to happen. The fact that we've devolved into a society of pure hatred. And, you've got people like Maxine Waters out there saying that the white supremacists are all MAGA and they're training in the woods to just start killing black people. And there are people that believe that. And so they say, well, we better kill those whites before they kill us. And so fomenting wars. If they want to lecture somebody, lecture her. She's a liar. She's a race baiter and a warmonger. And she's going to get a lot of black people killed. But she doesn't care because she's an elitist. She doesn't want to mingle with them anyway. She doesn't have a heart full of love for her own kind or anybody else. She talks about race all day long, but when it comes to race, it's the only race for her is green. Okay. So that's what you're full of. Biden wants to nuke Americans, all Americans of every stripe, of every color, of every race, of every religion and non-religion. He just wants to nuke the Americans because they're useless eaters, get them out of the way for the New World Order. And so he doesn't want to do it directly because it would look like, gosh, this Biden guy is pretty evil. He just nuked his own people. So he's trying to get Putin to do it for him. I have always said that. I have never had to change that. At first, we thought it was Hillary that was going to be getting us into a nuclear war for the purpose of depopulation, along with this bird flu that they're insisting they're going to release that also. And so this is going to be a big killing fest. It's going to be bigger than anything on earth, and any communist purge or anything from Mao Zedong or Lenin or Russia or Bolsheviks or I should say Stalin and Pol Pot and some of the other dictators around the world, Idi Amin, whatever. This will promise to be the grand big bang of depopulation. This is where you get rid of billions all at once. And so nobody wants to have that blood on their hands. So they're going to get big bad Russia to do it for them. So we are sitting there lobbing bombs on Russian civilians. America is the warmonger, is at fault for all of it. And America is pure evil at this point. But you can't tell people that. They're not going to believe you. Pure evil. And the days of America being beneficent and kind and helping other countries and all that, those days are over. It's all about lining their pockets and screwing you and stealing everything you have and killing you and getting the fuck rid of you. And I mean it with vehemence, with extreme prejudice. You've been here too long. You've taken up the resources. These are my resources. They don't belong to you. Quit eating. Well, we'll snuff you out. Then we'll see what you have to say. Okay, that's the attitude of hatred. Okay, so I'm being an actor here. I'm just acting. That's the attitude within every one of them. And I keep telling you this, and people say, oh, usually I'm ahead of the game, and, like I was years ago. And they said, Zeph, if it's like you say, I'm going to kill myself. They just could not believe the system that they're part of, that they've conformed to, would be that evil that would turn on them. And it's all connected. ET is all connected. Witchcraft versus angels, God versus witchcraft, whatever, same conflicts, light versus dark, sorcery versus God-led versus sorcerer-led. Every sorcerer wants to rule the world or the universe, yada, 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 and on and on and on. And it's just, yes, it's so repetitive in my life that it has become boring. All of it. Everything I'm talking about here has become boring to me. Boring because it's so repetitive and it never changes. And it's always the same agenda. Corrupt human and get rid of them. Get rid of them quickly before they have a chance to repent. Very important. The council says so. Thus saith the council on the moon in the crystal city. Talked about John Lear yesterday. And John Lear echoed my thoughts. I didn't say it publicly, but I wrote about, had a vision of a base on the moon, and also where the council who looks over and guides human affairs. I can't imagine if they're peaceful. And they do it from the moon of all places. And then he had kind of echoed that and sort of, because really a scary kind of kind of moment. But yeah, so there is that. And what do they do on the moon? They recycle souls. And where do they go? Well, I think in my opinion, they get repurposed, recycled, and they come back here for whatever reason to be under the prison, under the warden's eye, right? ET is the warden, right? The warden of the prison planet Earth. And then God is Yah, right? Yahoo. And God saves as Yahusha, right? Literally from the Hebrew, that's Yahoo, it's a transliteration, and Shah is salvation. Now, people, if you want to get the name right, even that's not exactly completely accurate because it's using man's language. But there are people that insist that you use that name. I have no problem with it. Yahuwah means God is, right? I am. And Yahusha means God saves. So I'm calling on the great I am. I'm calling on Yahusha in the name of Yahusha, the name that every other name is under. In other words, if you have a name like God saves, and then it's an identity, it's a genetic code, and you have this as your reason for existence, then that being, there would be no other name except Yahusha. And some people say Yeshua, that just means salvation. Jesus doesn't mean any of it. Jesus is an approximation of a name that really belongs to a Celtic god. It's from Isus, that comes from the Greek. And so it's, the J was invented a lot long, just in recent, more recent history than the Yah. And so it's really kind of a modern approximation, but it still means the same thing. It means the Son of God. And there are places in the Bible that say, call me by that name and no other. Well, I call God by his real, because this is going to get some people mad. So here you go. I call God by his real name, which is no name that I can utter. But musically, the name of creator is like Yahweh, which is like Yahuwah, Yahweh, right? It's got the on the H. So that is, the name of God, Yahweh. And the Lord told me that, and then, but the Lord says, to me anyway, regarding the name issue and all the fights about it, is not to fight about it. Let people be informed. Let's trust in the Lord, that the Lord, if the Lord is offended, the Lord will guide people. If he wants to hear Yahweh and Yahusha, then he will guide people from Jesus and God to that. It's the fact that we need to be these policemen just makes us into Pharisees, You know what I mean? It defeats the whole purpose. So that's my thing on that. But anyway, you consider Yahusha in all this with the ETs. In fact, we should call this Yahusha versus ET. God saves versus ET. I rest my case. And the Lord says, well, I do have others. And a lot of people think that means ETs. I have others elsewhere that you don't know about. They think that means ET. Well, you'd have to take each case because, like I say, there's lots of ETs. And, you know, there's as many ETs as there are hybrids. Hybrids. Humans are hybrids. Well, some plants are hybrids too. I don't know. I just know that human has, if you're truly human, you have a soul. And if you have a soul, it's not meant to be sold or rented even, or borrowed or taken in abeyance. It's your soul. It's you. It's who you are. And that identity is what God made you. Regardless of the process to get there, you can prove that, oh, there was a upgrade of DNA and there were changes here and the ETs made this and the ETs made that. Fine. Let's say the ETs were doing God's work. Doesn't matter. It's God's work. Do the ETs always do God's work? No. Are they created beings? Yes. Are they robotic beings? Are they machines? Many. Hybrids that are part machine, yeah. That's how they overcome the age problem. Live for thousands of years as a machine. The problem is it within God's will or not? So it really becomes two ways. The way of ET, and I think the Zuni elder would agree with me. I think I'd like to talk to him. I'm going to find out where he is. He's in New Mexico. So hopefully he's still alive and I'll be able to say, ask him some questions, because I think he would agree with me that there's and what am I saying? I'm saying that I am just as sovereign, just as important, just as special as any ET anywhere, forever, or any created thing. God made me in my own unique, my own uniqueness as God's, signature on me, on my soul. And I'm sorry, but that's not really up for grabs. So if the Lord wants me to go through, and I call him the Lord, that's because I only worship the Lord. I don't worship ET. I don't have a need to go there. I saw this woman on this one show, and she's like screaming at the people that they better start becoming more loving and more open and let ET in. Well, the last guy that tried that got totally possessed by demons and had to go through. He wound up in a attempting suicide in a mental hospital. I'm just going to stick with the basics here. And the basic is God created me to be unique. I am not part of a collective. I'm an individual, and I can lend a hand to any group of people doing anything. That doesn't mean that we all meld together. Melding together is a sign of Lucifer. We are all one. We are the world is a Luciferian statement. We are all individuals and we are all children of God is a godly statement. But both statements are true. Both statements have truth in them. You can, through free will, become a collective person. You can abrogate your individuality and basically subvert your individuality for the benefit of the whole or the collective, and go with ET to the ends of the universe and help create more beings and make more planets and make lots of things that you too can be as God. So anyway, it becomes it gets to the point of absurdity, and it's basically, it was nowhere in 1976. It was nowhere in 1987 during the harmonic convergence and the Maya and Jose Arguelles and his book that was such a big breakthrough at the a favorite at the Bodhi Tree, of course, in Los Angeles. It was you know, it's so tempting to jump in to having upgraded DNA and walking through walls or walking on the ceiling and opening portals and going back and forth in time and being the master of your own universe and not subject to the hatred and the whims and the idiocy and the strife and the anger that you find on earth. Oh boy, would I love to get out of this. ET will be your solution and the government will push it at you. Just like, you know, they push groups. They like LGBTQ, they like Black Lives Matter, they like the global communist and socialist parties, and they push that, and you know, they'll push that, and they're going to really go hard with ET, because with ET, remember this too, it's do what thou wilt. So let's go to just sexuality. Okay, a lot of people think, well, you're not liberated until you're pansexual. With ET, you're pressured into pansexual behavior, beginning with sex with ETs. So that because the ETs find, you know, and I'm generalizing. Well, there's so many races, but this could be like 100 races be the same. Is what I'm saying. They find, you know, I mean, if you go back to the times of the fallen angels, they find, you know, women, earth women, very attractive, and they want to have sex. They want to make, what do they make? They make hybrids. So there is that too. So I guess it just comes down to who you are, you know. Who I am is, I was created, had a rough, screwed up family, and rough time in the world. Kind of, it's hard for me to get along like some people, but still, it's mine. It's my history. It's no one else's, you know. And those are the cards I was dealt. That's what I've really had to deal with. And I've also had good things. I'm having a time by the fire here, and had some, you know, had a place to stay, a place to live, food to eat, all that. That's been good. The other problems, psychological, mental, emotional, whatever, have been kind of tough. But the good news is I was here to overcome those things. In other words, there was like an obstacle course. I was born with the good over here, a lot of good stuff, and then this over here, which was kind of life and death, you know. And it's sort of, I was cut loose on my race. I realized at the end, all these obstacles, all these things that I had to overcome were about personal growth, wisdom. Like I said, the time I spent at the hospital was like a boot camp, sharpening me up, increasing my IQ, which is, you'd think at my age you'd be going the other way, you know. And it just got sharper just because I had to be. I had to be on my toes, you know. And you know, so here's the deal. You know, this is the life I was given. It's mine. Yes, there are ETs that would like me to give it to them, like to turn over the keys to my kingdom, if you will, to my universe, to who I am. And if I was just here on my own accord and there were no God, and I was not a created being, and if I could not communicate with the Most High God, as in terms of, well, now what do we do? How do we get, you know, Lord, I need help. I need your help every day. I can do nothing without Christ. You know? And with that instruction that I have received, also came persecution and nastiness. And I was told that's what would happen. And then it happened just exactly as I was told would happen. So I think that I believe the one that loved me first, the one that told me the truth, the one that cared about me when nobody else did. So yes, that's, and then if it all ends tomorrow, all ends tonight, that's fine. I did pretty good. I'm judged on how I handled all this. That's, I'm standing before the Lord, and he's going, definitely we're going to have a report card. But see, that's the way I like it. In other words, it makes sense to me not to stray. Now, I did try to stray with ET when I was 18, 19. I wanted so bad to get out of here. I was really having some troubles, and I just begged ET I would watch, and I'd see them under the ocean, and I'd see them in the sky, triangle craft, and of course that turns out to be U.S. military. But all I wanted was to be picked up and taken to a place of safety and escape this horrible world. And, just like Jimi Hendrix said in his famous song, "Castles Made of Sand fall into the sea eventually." There's a woman who is in a wheelchair, and she's looking out and seeing a golden ship coming to take her away from all this, but it didn't stop. It just kept going. So castles made of sand fall. In other words, that song, brilliant. But bottom line is, I understand that emotion. When I was a lot younger, I really, really, I think even my sojourn into Hinduism and Buddhism, and there was an intellectual one too, as far as books and studies and Sanskrit and all this stuff. It was all an effort to get out of here. And then I've learned that, this is the world that we find ourselves in. It's bad outside, and in my case, it was bad. I had a lot of emotional, personal problems inside in me that had to be healed. And and that many have been healed. Much of my trauma from childhood and all that's cleared up, gone. And it was gone but the Lord healed me, but he healed me in his time. And it was up to me to be patient enough to get my own ego out of it, to say, okay, I will keep on, and I have been rewarded for that. And I can tell you it's real. And everything that even that, my first sojourn into directing a film in the, indie film, Angel's Tide, came full circle after 30 years. And I thought, oh, I've been left derelict. I've been abandoned. Nobody cares. I've been crushed. I've been ruined. And now it's playing in festivals around the world. And, but more important than that, and it has a distribution deal, but more important than that, when I see it, I feel proud again of it, like, yeah, I did my best. It's not perfect. I have a lot to learn. It's first time directing something. You're going to make mistakes, but boy, it really, it looks so good and it sounds good. And, I offer it to the world. I gave it to God, and, and I've experienced that instead of a hole in my soul now of something that happened, instead of trying to fix this thing myself when I couldn't, I didn't even think that it would ever be fixed, but it came around and it got fixed and it felt right. And then on top of it, I got a 30-year healing. It's a 30-year process of feeling abandoned and deserted, feeling that God didn't want me to do anything like that. So maybe that's what it was. That wasn't what it was at all. It was, it doesn't really matter what my thoughts are about it. That's just the way it is. That's the timing God had. And that timing couldn't have been better. And my healing is complete in that regard. I no longer feel, I'm not angry at, bad actors on, and what they did, and people trying to stop me from making films and all that stuff. I really, it just had a perfect conclusion. So that's doing it God's way, and something superficial, like something you create. When there's a lot of things like trauma, PTSD, abuse issues, all that my daughter never fixed, the Lord has also, delivered me from those. But it took 50 years, 60 years. The only way I could have received the healing was I'd have to be here, and I'd have to not give myself away to entities, whether human or ET or any of them, that had nefarious plans of control and usurpation, for their own gain. Darn it, I didn't want to talk about myself, but I was trying to talk about the ET thing. But you just might want to know about my own path of how I really tried to go with ET and wanted to, just like I tried to go with ashrams and gurus and all that stuff. And there's something, in me, I guess, that blocked. And what that was God in me not allowing me to, keeping me back from jumping into the pit. And it's all a pit. It's really an obstacle course. And so to sum it up, okay, so what we were talking about, ET cannot help anyone, really. ET has done a horrible job with the government, and warmongering. And ET is just basically, if you read the Book of Enoch, all the things the fallen angels have given to man, like war, black magic, all kinds of, advanced sciences that can, basically kill people. It's all about their control. It's all about their usurpation of the sovereignty of the individual that God made. It's all about shitting on God's creation, not improving it. But you see, the average people out there believe that God needs to be improved on, because we only live to be at best, 95 years old or whatever it is. And we could live to be thousands of years old. Well, possibly. But whatever the answer to that is something that, either you take it under your own advisement, and then you go out and become God and solve your God problem of whatever, life extension, technology, whatever you want to do. Go ahead and knock yourself out. And I will, that I understand that there's no crime in waiting on the Lord. And I know the temptation of the prophets of Baal to say, oh, look at that, your God, is he really going to do anything? But when it really comes down to it, when I really look at all the people that were very critical, and all the people that thought they knew better, all the people that laughed at me, for example, well, most of them are dead, or, well, they're certainly forgotten in their old folks' homes and their doctors all week long, and whatever it is they're doing. They still have a chance, of course, but they kind of missed the boat. What was the boat? Well, the boat is you're dealt a certain hand of cards, a certain thing. And how are you going to get through those obstacles? Your way, using your intellect, the coach's way, daddy's way, ET way, gurus, or rely on God. If you rely on God, you'll be teased, you'll be laughed at. Your God's really doing a great job. So it's nice to sit here with proof and receipt of blessings from God and healings that I didn't even expect, that I didn't even know there was something wrong that I need to be healed from. A lot of people don't even know what they have, but let's face it, we're here in a process to learn, to grow, to overcome things. And avoidance of all that leads to people into real deep trouble. You know, that's what leads to violence, addiction, war. Oh, sound familiar? So that's my advice, which I'm giving no advice. You follow what you're going to follow. I guess I don't follow anyone. I just kind of exist with this idea that I'm going to, you know, like when I saw the ET thing and I was watching all these shows because I was thinking about doing a documentary about them, or documentaries because they're popular. And then I realized I may not be the person to do that. You know what I mean? There's like a line there. And I can just say that, could I say been there, done that, and not insult people? Been there, done that, and I'm sorry, but I think that people that think ET will deliver them, you know, into bliss and harmony, and it's, you know, is just basically fomenting, and I'm sorry if you're going to get mad at this, but it's a way of fomenting hatred toward your fellow man. And let me show you how. We saw this woman that was, you know, the angriest person I'd ever seen speaking publicly. I mean, really angry, lecturing everybody about, you know, consciousness and ET, and boy, you're gonna have to get in line, and you better change your ways, and you know, it's your fault that you know it's our fault that the world's like it is. Not her fault. It's our fault. It's everyone that doesn't listen to her and do exactly what she says, and that is where this all goes. And so she's sitting there pretty much almost screaming at people about consciousness and being more loving. And, you know, it's just like almost listening to, you know, political speech.
And she was
Is that Trish?
she was a ex Department of Defense.
Right. She used to be in the Department of Defense, and now she's just an angry old woman. But her main anger and regret is that, you know, here's the golden opportunity for ET and for evolution and for peace. And look, people are too stupid to take it. Now, I guess I've had that same attitude with respect to Jesus, but I since that have come to, I'm altering that a bit. I really do believe that people are meant to go different paths, and, you know, not everybody is meant to go, you know, to understand the Alpha and the Omega, the Lamb slain before the foundation of the world, to be conformed to Christ before even being born. They may not understand any of that, and that's fine, and it's okay. The way of suffering, to you know, into wisdom, the way of understanding, the way of healing, which then presumes that all humanity needs healing. So you've got one person that says ET is the answer, and they're just screaming and yelling at people because you're not opening, you're not letting them in. You know, let them into your soul or body even. And I said, there's no room in there, honey. I've got the Holy Spirit. I have complete super consciousness whenever, because the Holy Spirit, God, indwelling in me, is all knowledge, all wisdom. I don't always follow it, but I don't lack for anything. So, well, you're going to die though. Well, but do we really die? I don't think so. I think I go on in other forms. This is it's a great test, you know, of the flesh, entropy, things wearing out, you know, saying goodbye to some things, saying hello to newborn babies and goodbye to old people. It's not easy, but escaping the sorrow, escaping the pain, finding another way. Every which way you squirm is an affront against God, right? Because it's against he knows very well what this system is, and he knows very well the suffering that we go through, especially if you're trying to follow him or truth or any of these little streams and tributaries that lead all the way to Christ. Could be just someone seeking truth, and then they find themselves on their knees eventually going, oh, I had no idea, I'm sorry, I had no idea what this was all about. I cursed the day I was born. Jeremiah cursed his mother's womb. It happens. It's a real struggle, but to avoid the struggle, and that's a failure, by the way, if you curse your mother's womb, and thou shalt honor my mother and father, just like I guess my way of forgiving my own family for being ignorant is just kind of making fun of them at this point, which is better than, the hatred's gone. So now it's kind of like making fun of society or making fun of socialites or making fun of the whole sort of plastic, like make fun of them through making fun of Taylor Swift or any of the other bought and paid for divas that they throw in front of people to influence them into buying into this situation, which, there's nothing I can do about it. I made the case over years and years, and I got to the point of frustration where I would calling everybody stupid because they couldn't see the simple truth. Fact is, they can see the simple truth. They've just decided to go the way they want to go, and it's not the way that I'm going, and that's fine. But you may have noticed I've let that go. That's a healing.
Hallelujah.
That is a healing to, allowing people to be people. And not necessarily becoming judgmental or whatever. It's a big healing, because if you hold people responsible for your pain, well, they all persecuted me and they gang stalked me and they tried to ruin my life and I almost committed suicide. You're going to be a kind of a person that later on, when you get some knowledge and some wisdom, you start to understand what this is all about. You might start saying, look how dumb those people are. They're going right off the cliff. They don't even know it. I mean, that's a stage we go through. But I have since leaving that stage. And I have a lot of friends on all sides, because you see, let me explain this. Sometimes people go through a 50-year cycle, and they you know what I mean? And all their lives, they've thought they did the right thing in rebelling against the man, the church, the goody two-shoes, indulged in drugs and sex and this and that, thinking they were fighting a good fight against totalitarianism or whatever, and Nazis, only to find themselves on their knees later when they understood that they had free will the whole time. They had free, usually when freedom is threatened, then people start to wake up a little bit. But the answer to it is not proving my point. And then, yes, I can win in a court of law, but if it's logical, but most courts of law are not based on logic anymore. So it's a moot point. But the idea that humanity is humanity, and that's just the way it is, and people behave the way they're going to behave. And for me, it's no longer necessary to jump in and if they fall into the trap, to call them stupid. They fall into the trap because we're weak. You could fall in the trap for 50 years and change your mind. I mean, I don't know what people are going to do. So I don't want to be a cause of them being angry with me and therefore mad at God, and you know what I mean, and just continuing on their path of uselessness, of desultory thinking and wandering, wanting desperately to find something to hold on to. I want to be more the person that's encouraging them to find their way. Like people say, well, so-and-so is not saved. What are you going to do? I'm saying, leave them alone. They're still hanging around me. They haven't rejected me. I'm just going to keep living my life. Just leave everything alone. God works with people on his own time. And if he wants you to say something to somebody, that moment will show itself. But this idea of going around and just, I saw this one guy running after, a gay pride parade, and he's a Jesus freak, and he's walking up to this, a tranny, and it's all dolled up and marching in the parade and having a good time. And he said to them, that let me talk to you about Jesus. And the guy goes, "I love Jesus." The tranny, "I love Jesus. Jesus is, that's the whole deal." And so he wanted to challenge them, or challenge the tranny, that don't you, then he started in on the Bible. Don't you believe the Bible, not to dress up in women's clothes, and where he's going, right? And he might have thought himself a hero, but he also might have set that guy back on his walk, but obviously he still had the testimony of Jesus. He just had, he was in the pride parade doing what he was doing. It's kind of, if you realize that pride was the main sin that God, really hates, or the sin of Lucifer, and then you join a pride parade, it's kind of obvious. But when this young man ran up to him and starts challenging him, according to scripture, and it says, "Well, you only believe the scriptures you conveniently believe," and all that. He put him on the spot, and I believe it was wrong. And he pressured the poor guy, and maybe scored points with his buddies, but it came off as being another browbeating, judgmental, Bible thumping bigot. And I don't think God's work is complete until that's completely gone. And I think our model is Jesus, Yahusha. Yahusha is our model in the way he suffered. Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. But also, let the dead bury the dead, and also, give me you're weak, you're weary, you're tired, and you can rest yourselves on me. I'm butchering this badly, but my burden is light, my yoke is easy. Come into eternity with me. And so you've got, it's quite a mystery, and I can't explain it to people. But it doesn't preclude me from being around people that are believers, non-believers, ET believers. I'm at peace with all believers, whatever you believe. I may have my own philosophical and principled reasons why I'm not going to jump in with you into ET land. But that doesn't mean that I don't love you, and it doesn't mean that I judge you. Because I've been there, and it worked out. I would have stayed there. I would have been like some of these. I'm friends with some of these new age people that, well, you know who they are out there. And I don't know why they keep listening to me, and so they sneak a listen. I'm very politically incorrect, and very, it's all been about my own process of healing. I think I went online originally to heal, but anyway, we've gone 49 minutes. It's going to take a while for this to get up there. This is why you pay me the big bucks, because, I'm going to bleed. If it bleeds, it leads. I'll see you next time. God bless.